Hello everybody, welcome to the first ever episode of Fowl Play, a Realm Royale broadcast. I'm your main host, Alan. I hold shift on a Frio, and I am joined by three lovely, if not slightly intoxicating individuals. We'll go through the roster, and first and foremost, we'll do this alphabetically, just because I would normally put Shaw last, but we'll just make him feel like it's not actually, because he's the least desirable personality on the stream. I'm just kidding. We'll start things off. Baggins, hello man, welcome to the stream.
Hi, it's great to be here. It's me, Baggins TV, the guy from YouTube and Twitch and a Hobbit. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you, Shift.
Is that the order that you typically introduce yourself in?
Yeah, and above Shaw as well. I usually make it mentioning
perfect. Our third personality here is Jaggerus. Welcome, all the way from the EU as well.
Hey, what up? I'm representing Scotland. I don't really sound that Scottish though. I'll play it up. I'll be like, I'm for Scotland. There you go. That's better.
Yeah, you better be wearing a kilt right now.
That too. If you need to, I'll go back and I'll add in some bagpipes behind your voice just every time you talk.
If there's ever a video edition of this podcast, it better be in full national gear. I'm gonna need Baggins actually barefoot, with hairy toes, from the Shire.
Maybe one day we can get somebody to animate this. It would be great.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, perfect. And of course, you guys have already heard his voice a number of times. We have Sean joining us, our final bringing up the rear of the caboose of the podcast. Bud. What's going on?
In last place, last but not least, it's me. I'm Shaw. I'm from the Northeast, from New England. I've been streaming Realm pretty much since it came out. I've been streaming lots of High-Res games, played Smite, played Paladins, played all of it, and I'm really happy to be here.
It's really awesome to have you here, even though we might meme on you just slightly because
this will be the first and last podcast I ever attend.
Well, welcome everybody listening in. This is Foul Play again, as I mentioned, Realm Royale podcast. Briefly, just about this, it's just going to be the four of us kind of bantering and talking about the game and things that we like or enjoy, or things that kind of happened. Of course, this episode, I'm sure you will be hearing plenty about the upcoming patch, but we'll also be looking at both casual and competitive implications with it. And then beyond that, this will be run weekly, about a 30-minute spot for you. It'll be up on a number of different platforms for you to download. The whole goal is that it could be that perfect time spot for you to listen while you're on your way to and from work, or if you're at work, that's fine too, I guess, if you're sneaky about it. Don't let us get you in trouble, though. And then beyond that, of course, like I mentioned, it'll be weekly. We'll figure out a set time to get this up. I imagine you'll likely find it mostly on Mondays. And if you have more questions about it, feel free to let us know individually, as Shaw is actually the spokesperson as far as how the podcast works. So ask and direct all of your questions to him. He knows all of the information.
I was not informed of this.
Oh.
All right, I can do that.
He'll learn on the fly, peeps.
Yeah. It's at Shaw on Twitch. He also has all the codes for console as well, so make sure you add him on, on Twitter as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he knows when console's coming out.
I do.
Yeah, well,
it's actually my fault. I've been hoarding it to myself. I've just been queuing up. I'm the only one on the servers. I'm just playing console.
You got 7 different Xbox and PS4s in your room. You're just queuing at the same time.
Playing
you gotta
against
get
bots,
those
dude.
50 wins to get masters. Just play against yourself, and then you'll look like the best player on console.
I know. That's gonna be my claim to fame. The #1 console player. The #1 out of 1.
Hey, someone's got to be there, you know what I mean? It might as well be you. That's all I know.
Exactly. You know, we can't all be winning the Keemstar 100K tournaments like you, Shift.
Well, first of all, we'll talk about that later. So we heard more about Shaw being from New England. Let's get a little bit more information on Baggins. I actually don't know, Baggins, where you came in before Realm. I know that you've always been really doing well on YouTube specifically, but what got you into Realm?
Well, it's a long and dark story. No, it's not really that bad. Much like Char as well. I played a lot of... So Smite was my first introduction to high-res, back in 2014. Man, that feels like a long time ago. And then some friends told me about... I was playing Smite with some friends, and then the same friends, just as we were finishing university, they were like, oh, high-res are releasing this other game. It's called Paladins. Do you want to check that out? I got some closed beta codes. And I was like, yeah, we'll give it a go. Because I was interested in Overwatch at the time, and Paladins came out before it. And I got hooked into that game for 2 years. And then around that time, Battle Royale started becoming a thing. The Culling was one of the first Battle Royales I played, and I sort of built my YouTube and my Twitch off of that. That was what I connected with and my my people knew me for. My Hobbit folk, they knew me for the culling. But at the same time, just as the culling was sort of starting to die, there's a whole other story about that. But basically, the Battle Royale, the culling, it did not do too well. Again, I heard news that Hi-Rez are working on a Battle Royale game. It was going to be called Paladins Battlegrounds, which formerly then became Paladins Realm Royale. And now it's Realm Royale, the game we know and love today. And yeah, I just it's the same thing that I've always done. Like when I get excited about a game, I just stick to it. I make so much content on it. I try my best to become, the proest Hobbit that there ever was. And that's, I made YouTube videos and streamed it every day since it came out. And Hi-Rez Senpai, they were like, "Hey, Hobbit, come on, get in." So I got in the Hi-Rez mobile, and I haven't looked back since.
Is it not easy to be the best Hobbit when Hobbits don't exist?
Ooh.
I mean, you could say
it's like
that,
me on console.
I was saying,
Yeah,
it's like
it's
Sean.
basically, yeah. I'm like
Number one of one.
the Shaw on console of the Hobbit realm.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
He talks about all my people. It's just him.
Oh,
Just
there,
one.
I can see them, okay, but there's a lot of them, I promise. So.
I think that's a mental condition. You might want to see a doctor.
Shaw with the 200 IQ MD diagnosis right there. I like that. That's awesome. So I have to poke you about this. So how much did you enjoy the culling too?
So
Wow. You would have had to have got in there very quickly.
I don't even know if I should acknowledge what that game is, man. It was a bit
Fair
of
enough. I don't think anyone actually did, so you wouldn't be the first.
People always come into, sometimes we get, like, obviously we're going to go into this later on, but one of the comments that I see pretty frequently is, this game is dead, and it doesn't even have to be about Realm Royale. It could be literally anything that isn't Fortnite, because it's not got like a billion players like Fortnite does. It's dead to them. And I'm like, dude, I played a game called The Culling 2, okay? That is a dead game. Like, you, come on, come back to me when you did a little bit of research on The Culling 2, and we can talk about that. Man, it had one player online after 48 hours of launch, like 2 days in, and one player concurrent each day. Like, that's
so brutal. Yeah, I heard they were
spicy.
giving refunds after just a couple of hours.
Yeah, they just scrapped the whole thing and went back to the original game, which is, man, I don't know. It took them a while to realize that what they should have done, but yeah.
That happens. Hindsight's 2020. Jagras, all the way over in Scotland. Tell us a little bit more about yourself as well, because you have some experience with podcasting in the past.
Yeah, so, well, my experience from Hi-Rez, I'm like Baggins in that I was a big Smite fan. I played since open beta, so played a lot of Smite, and then kind of transitioned a little bit towards card games. So I played, for example, Smite Tactics, which became Hand of the Gods. I actually also played Chronicle, which was the RuneScape card game. All of these card games have died. I feel like me and dead games just kind of go hand in hand. But through that, I ended up playing Gwent, which I worked on a talk show for. And I'm actually a commentator, a caster for Gwent Esports. So whenever they have tournaments, then I go to Poland and commentate Gwent. But that got me super into esports. And then because I follow like a million Smite people, a few months ago, everyone started tweeting Realm Royale, Realm Royale, Realm Royale. And I'm just like, right. The number of times I've seen this come up on my Twitter feed, I'm going to have to jump back in and see what this is all about. And this was my first ever Battle Royale as well. I played a very small amount of Fortnite, using the F word there. But, I can't build the Taj Mahal. Like, I built a shack. Someone else built the Eiffel Tower. It didn't go very well. PUBG's not really my kind of thing. So I got into Realm Royale through that, and honestly, I think it's a fantastic game. The whole concept is really fun. There's a lot of good things going for it. There are some, questionable things, which we'll talk about later. But overall, that's kind of how I've come into Realm Royale. And I have a very big esports focus, but more in terms of like analysis and commentary rather than, competing myself.
And so is this your first, I wouldn't say first third-person shooter, because I guess Smite could be argued for it, but is this just like your first true shooter experience then?
Yeah, like the last time I played shooters was Halo 3 on Xbox. I'm competing with Shaw here, No, the last time I was really into shooters was Halo 3, and that was my jam, but never really been really into any specific kind of shooting games before this one. And I feel like with Smite, there's crossover with the abilities, like in terms of lining up those kind of shots. The third-person perspective is kind of good for me. And then recently I've been playing a lot of Warframe as well, which also uses a third-person camera. So I've gotten way more into third-person shooters because of Realm Royale.
Yeah,
okay.
That's one of the things I loved coming into the game, was how it felt like it melded several genres that I really loved together. The ability usage, because I had played a ton of Smite too, and then also Battle Royales.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same boat. I mean, I actually didn't realize that both you, Shaw, and Baggins, you guys actually were playing Paladins in the past. I mean, it's actually funny. Your story, Baggins, of why you started playing Paladins was actually similar to me. I wanted to get into Overwatch and really wanted to start building something to get into the Blizzard fan club, and never got into the beta. Ended up falling in love with Paladins and had been on that bus for a long period of time. And of course, obviously, we all kind of heard at the same time when it came to this game. And obviously 3 of the 4 of us have had some time on the Realm Royale channel, which has been a pretty awesome adventure, I would say, more often. Jaggers, do you stream as well, by chance?
Yeah, I have a stream. It's twitch.tv/Jaggers. I'm basically Jaggers on everything. Apparently nobody wants to be called Jaggers except for me. So, like, anyone listening, don't take my name. Like, I will fight you. I'm face Scotland, mate. Like, it will not end well.
She just said, "Come at me, bro," in the most nicest way possible. Really.
Square go. That's how you say it in Scotland. Square go. That means we're gonna fight.
I'll have to take that one with me next time I get into a street fight. I think if I'm not much of a fighter. I don't know if you guys knew that, but I think if I could thoroughly confuse somebody enough, if they wanted to fight me, maybe they would just leave me alone, thinking I'm like crazy. I don't know.
Square go, man. Square go. They're like, what are you talking about, dude? Like,
what are you talking about?
This guy's crazy, man. I don't want to fight him.
Get away from this guy. But let's get into the podcast itself. So now that we've met everybody, it's good to meet you guys as well. Not that we can interact with you listening at the moment, but maybe in the future. We are going to be, of course, talking mostly about Realm Royale. And, of course, on everybody's minds over the last handful of days is the introduction of this new crafting economy patch, is what it's listed as of August 3rd. So it's almost been a full 48 hours of Reddit being on fire. Someone needs to call.
I feel like they could have made that title way longer too. They just called it the crafting economy, but they could be like, it's the crafting economy and it's the removal of chickens and it's making it's like there's so much in this patch that's so drastically different from last patch that
very much so. And before we get into the conversation, again, most of you listening, I probably have some familiarity with how the patches have been going with Realm, but if you do not have so much familiarity with how Hi-Rez treats their alpha and beta testing processes, it is very much so. They're going to come up with wild ideas. They're going to try them to see what works, what might work, and obviously what does not work. So expect changes like this to pretty much go through no matter what early feedback that you have while we talk through the notes. But again, try to keep yourselves as level-headed as possible, and you kind of keep the frame of mind of where we are in the state of the game as a whole. But yes, you hit it right in the headshot. There are actually 3 major big, I would say, categories in changes. We'll start things off with just the general gameplay. First and foremost, reactions on the headshot damage being reducted from essentially what is 2 times bonus to just a 1.5 times bonus for every weapon.
Oh, God bless, man. I remember when I first started reading the patch notes, that was it's number 1 on the bullet points, and I was like, oh my God, they did it, and I was so hyped for these patch notes. The first line in, I was like, oh my God, it's great, and then as I kept reading more and more patch notes, I was like, oh wait, no, what is all of this? What is going on here? But no, that change is absolutely something that I'm on board with. I think getting one tapped by an early game, somebody luckily getting a purple slug is, it's a bit spooky. You literally just get one shot, and then it's not much you can do about it. Which is going to be a little bit even more interesting now that people can maybe get a gold slug, and that gold slug is going to do way more damage because of the scaling, which we'll get into later also.
Right. Yeah, that was my biggest reaction as well. I know that's kind of been one of those things in the competitive side of things. It's like, well, man, it just stinks to get, I'm triple headshotting people with a revolver right now. A white revolver is enough for a full down plus some extra. A green slug or a green burst, as, of course, the most overpowered weapons of the game. That's just, there's no way to really outplay it at the moment. So I'm personally really happy with this. On a casual side of things, I mean, what do you guys think more of as far as this looks, Jaggeris and Baggins? Are you guys happy with this, or you think it takes the skill gap down a little bit too far?
I think it's fine. I feel like in either aspect, like when you drop, like, say you drop in Lumber, and the guy next to you opens up his chest and he gets a green slug and he hits you in the head. It's 1,220 damage, which isn't enough to kill you. I think you get by with 80 HP, but you can effectively think of yourself as dead after that, because even in the event that you live, you have to run away and go find healing potions and then go find a healing ability. And then by that time, you've missed out on all this loot and all the fighting's happened. And then, generally one guy has come out on top, or 2 people, and they've started forging and making weapons. And you're just behind because you've only just come back into the fight after finally finding some healing potions. And it's just like, I don't know, it feels like you'll actually have a chance to do something in the early game now. Also, the desire to get like a legendary helmet is like super high. One thing that I was always afraid of is when you like don't have that legendary helmet, a sniper rifle, I'm pretty sure just like one-shots you most of the time, unless you have full legendary helmet. So
exactly.
now you basically always have a legendary helmet, so you don't have to worry about that so much, which is really nice. I feel like that's a really good change. Like the same way in Shaw, like when I went through the patch notes and I read through them, the first two things I read, like the headshot damage reduction and the 600 extra armor, I'm like, yeah, this is good. I'm liking it. And then, you know, the feeling sort of slowly, like, all the blood drained out of my body as I kept reading down. But before that, it was, yeah, I think it's a good change. Some people tell me, like, Baggins, don't you think this is going to remove, like, the skill gap from the game? Because, like, now the players who are landing headshots consistently will, you know, they won't be any better than players who aren't. But
it's
honestly,
still 50% extra damage, though.
Yeah,
I mean, like, if you're hitting every single headshot, you're still doing 50% more DPS than anybody else.
And if we're getting completely honest about the game, the hitboxes are still a bit janky right now. So
yeah, and it feels like a lot of times the headshots
sometimes when I get a headshot,
lucky.
it's like I just put my hands up when I get them. I'm like, you know what, chat? I didn't actually intend for that to happen, but I'll take it. And I feel like that's what they're doing to me as well. So now that we're not seeing as many spikes in that random look headshot, I think it's a good move for the game. I'm happy about that one.
Yeah, I like it. My only question is, like, why do chickens not have headshot damage, considering they're basically entirely head? Like, but that's just the thing that actually shouldn't exist. That was just me being an idiot, to be honest. But yeah, no, I think it's a good change. There's still an incentive to get headshots because you got the 50% bonus. But it just means that people aren't getting as upset from just being instantly one shot with certain weapons or just taken out straight in the early game, which is something that a lot of people complain about. So it's good.
Yeah, feel the same way. And I'm actually going to loop two different things into this next one. Shard bonus has been removed for killing players, but also on top of that, chicken trophies are also being removed. So when you do kill somebody by headshot or not, you're no longer getting that small bonus, which is actually, I believe the bonus only occurred when you downed somebody. It wasn't when you actually eliminated them completely.
Yeah, it's when you turn them into
when you downed
chicken.
Them. So
yeah,
so now there's no bonus for turning them into a chicken or a bonus for killing them because the chicken trophies are gone. Do you guys think that this removes the incentive to fight early or even possibly at all because that extra shard bonus is now not longer there?
I think so. I think coupled with a lot of the other changes with, you know, legendary spawning from chests, that sort of thing, it will, like, there's not really a ton of incentive to drop hot and kill a bunch of people because aside from the stuff that you get from their bodies, which probably won't be much because they only looted a couple of chests, like, there really isn't much reason to kill them, and also there's no real reason to get damage and have to burn maybe some of the pots that you have. So I think if this change goes live, I think we'll see a lot of people dropping really rural and then sort of slowly moving their way to the interior after, which, you know, might be a bit of a welcome change because I know we've seen a lot, you know, you'll be 3 minutes into the game and there's only like 25 people left because everyone's dead. So maybe we'll see less of that. So
I feel like in both perspectives though, it's kind of spooky. Like when you look at like the highest level of gameplay right now that you can, like the tournaments, the invitationals, and to see what the players are doing, like there's a risk versus reward strategy. Like you could drop Trinity Hills or even Lumber, and you know that if you are able to survive, you're gonna get some kills and you get your legendary weapon because it's pretty difficult to get the chicken trophies in the tournaments, I feel, because, you know, you're going to have to kill some fairly skilled players. So it was a reward because you drop in and you have the legendary weapon, and most likely a good chunk of the other teams that you come across aren't going to have their legendary class weapons because they haven't been risking it enough to go for those chicken trophies. So you have an inherent advantage over them because I think we can, for the most part, agree. Slug rifles as exempt, that the class legendary weapons are pretty powerful.
Especially the sniper.
There was like a good reward, a good incentive. Like you take that high risk drop to get the kills, but as a result, you get a big reward because you can then make a legendary class weapon. But now, you know, you can just be Joe Schmo, land like in the corner of, you know, a Goblin Gulch or someplace that nobody ever goes, and just, you know, farm up, and then you get your legendary weapon. Meanwhile, the other guys on the other side of the map, you know, Shift and Slick, then busting their asses, like killing everybody, and you're just equally as well geared. It kind of seems a bit wrong. I don't know. One thing that I liked about Realm Royale, and maybe I'm laboring the point too much, is but when you compare it to Fortnite and PUBG and other battle royales, there's not really too much of an incentive to kill other players in those games. I mean, sure, it's Absolutely. Like it's part of the gameplay, but you don't get any reward. You know, you don't get extra material. Well, okay, you can pick up their loot, but you don't get anything on top of it. Whereas in this game, it's the only battle royale I've played so far where you actively, like, it rewards you for killing somebody. You get extra, what's the word, like, the crafting material, the shards, and you get the trophies as well, which is the only way to make weapons. And I feel like we're losing a core bit of the game by taking that away, so...
And the game also funnels people together with the forges, so it's like it's funneling people together,
True.
and there's an incentive to fight. Whereas, like you were saying, with PUBG, for example, it's almost bad to take fights because your armor gets dinked down in health, and you might lose your chest plate. You're actively trying to avoid people in a lot of situations.
I was watching
I really love that.
I was watching some Fortnite esports, and they were having a big problem with their custom games. They were getting really laggy at the end of the games because people were so good at staying alive, they just didn't fight each other until the circle was so small, and you still had 40 teams left alive because they just were not bothering to fight because there was no reason to.
Exactly,
but,
they can build into the into the
so I think they straight up just scrapped doing custom games because it just didn't work because of the core mechanics of the game. And I feel like if we lose that core mechanic of the game. But like the final thing that I'll say is another streamer, Thor. He looked at it from a different angle. I feel like it is good for casual players, people who are playing the game for the first time, who may not necessarily have the bravery or the skill to be able to kill people. They can still have a fighting chance later on because they'll be able to get their weapons without having to go and kill another team or two.
I'll bring another element to this too, to your Jaggerus. Like, my biggest thing with the chicken trophies, I really was not super mad about it. Like, yes, there's going to be a lot more legendary weapons in the game, but if Jaggerus and I are playing duos or we're in squads, it's so difficult to get these trophies sometimes in those more, populated games with teammates. Doesn't this kind of open up the avenue that when you do play with friends, you are going to be able to get that loot without having to worry about people goblining it?
Yeah, I would agree. Like, when I play duos, usually one of us gets a legendary weapon just because there's not enough chickens to go around. So you have to kind of delegate, and this does open up to maybe being a more social game in that it's definitely good for squads and for duos. But I would also say that you're kind of losing a large part of the game's identity, and I think that that's costly. And you're saying, like, with casual players, well, this is good for them, but I kind of disagree because even as a casual player, even if you're not getting your legendary weapon, some games I don't find, happen to land somewhere, then there's no one else there, and you don't get those options. But you can still do well with, the base weapons, like the slug rifle, for example, the burst rifle, both very powerful weapons, and, you can go toe-to-toe with people with legendary weapons and come out on top. So I don't necessarily think that this change is the right decision.
Okay. How about Baggins? Do you approve of these, or do you want to see the chicken still in the game?
I don't know. I feel like I would like the chicken trophies to stay in, but I'm trying to just like come at it from like thinking of everybody else and not just the game that I play, because I play a lot of solos and I'm maybe a bit of a tryhard, so I do feel like I barely play any squads these days, which is a shame because I do enjoy that game mode. But it's just there's competitively, like, there's no reason to play squads right now because there's no tournaments that are running squads. And just like from a streaming perspective, they get so chaotic sometimes because talking to chat whilst also talking to 3 other people at the same time is just like communications nightmare. But it is a pain in the ass to get all your legendary weapons online for your whole squad in squads, because you need to get 8 chicken trophies, which is it's quite a lot. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I'll have to play the patch. The only problem with the PTS right now is it's actually pretty difficult to get a game of like normal solos to see how it plays out. Right. You can play deathmatch and that's pretty much it. So I would have to like play some games to give my like completely honest opinion about how it feels. But from a standpoint looking at it on paper, I feel like Jagger says, the game is losing a bit of its identity if we take away the chicken trophies.
Yeah, I understand that. So I want to get your opinion on this one at the back as we move on through this. Armor has changed again. We're going to be starting with 600 armor at the base, and then all of the armor items, have been decreased in value, but it still ends up totaling to 1,200. So you're getting 60, 90, 120, and 150 per common, rare, epic, and legendary armor items. Initial thoughts when you read through this?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that I don't know if everybody's on the same page as me, but this has always been something that I've been super opposed to. I feel like increasing the time to kill in the early game doesn't make a lot of sense for a couple of reasons. Just because it doesn't necessarily make the engagements more fun, because in an early engagement, you've probably just got maybe a white or a green weapon. You probably don't have good abilities or maybe even any abilities at all. So pretty much the only thing you can do in an early engagement is just shoot at each other. Which with peeking and running away and having horses, that sort of thing, it makes these fights take a very, very long time, which leads to a lot of vulturing from what I've seen. Like there was a patch a while ago when it was like, I think 1,500 starting health and then 200 armor. So that was like 1,700 health. That's actually 100 less health than we're going to be going into, because 12 and 6 is 1,800. So it's going to be an even longer early game time to kill. And I remember during that patch, the vulturing was intense because the engagements took so long that, a third party had plenty of time to rotate over and then just wipe out both of you. And that's the other thing too, is like if you get into an extended early game fight with someone and you both end up with maybe 100 HP and you finally kill this other person, you're like, oh man, thank God, that was a crazy fight. I'm so happy I won that. You've got 100 HP. This other dude's rolling up on you with 1,800 HP. The outplay potential is almost zero. But if it was back to what it was before when we had no starting armor, he's rolling up on you with 1,200 HP. If you get the drop on him because you're listening, because he's just blindly running at the sounds he heard. If you get the drop on him, you put 2 shots in him, then you're at parity, and then maybe you can like relocate and you can actually outplay this person. I used to drop several people at the same time back when there was no starting armor, because you could 3-tap with most of the weapons. So I don't know. I'm not big on the early starting armor, and it also cheapens the value of armor in general too. So like, what's the point?
That was my biggest takeaway.
Like, what's the point of crafting armor if even a legendary piece now is going to be giving you less bonus armor than a white piece was giving you before this patch? So
yeah, currently.
Which I guess frees up more of your shards to go towards abilities and weapons, which is sort of a good thing, but I never really thought that the weapon should have been that expensive anyway. 200 shards and 2 chicken nuggets is pretty extreme. You got to drain your whole bank account, plus 2 kills just to get a weapon online, and then you've got your weapon, but maybe you're still rocking like some really bad abilities. So
But is this possibly a way, because again, the weapon damage is going to be rescaled from the 10, 20, 30% bonuses now to 20, 40, 60. Could this possibly be a way to get the early armor to kind of eliminate the, I found a white weapon, he found a purple weapon, or a legendary weapon? Does this 600 armor at the start kind of tip a hat towards, we want to make sure that you don't just instantly get deleted?
Yeah, well, see, then they're just solving a problem that they already created themselves, though. So it's like, I don't really love the new weapon scaling either, because it just seems sort of counterintuitive. I feel like early game fights should be relatively quick, because again, it's just like gun versus gun, just like get it over with quick, fast gunplay. And then I feel like the late game fights, that's when you've got your gold abilities that have low cooldown. That's when you've got all your gloves that give you faster weapon switches. You've got all this cool gear. You've got your class weapon, and that's when you want to have these sort of extended back and forth engagements that are fun and people are using abilities. And outplaying each other and outthinking each other. But with this extremely high weapon scaling now, you've got all these weapons, like the burst I think is doing 960 per burst without headshots.
Without headshots.
Yeah, you're just going to be getting 2-tapped, and that doesn't feel very good. You spent half an hour looting all of this awesome gear, and then you just get dropped instantly, and with very little counterplay. So I feel like it should go from fast early game TTK to fast TTK to slow TTK in the late game, or at least that's how I would design it. I don't have the numbers like Hi-Rez does, so I'm maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like that would feel the best.
I agree. I think like the time to kill in the current version of the game, I think, is in a really good spot. At first, I thought it was a little bit too quick, but actually having played it for a few weeks now, I think it's in a really sweet spot in terms of how long fights take, having an opportunity to escape if vultures do come in and all that. Like it's not in a bad place. The armor change, I think, is just to ameliorate the fact that with the weapon scaling changes, you're going to die really quick at the start, and so they're trying to kind of make that less painful. But then, like you said, then we have issues with crafting armor, and the headshots being reduced means that helmets aren't a must-have anymore. So I don't like the armor, and I don't like the change to weapon scaling and like the weapon damage at all. No,
same. I'm in the same boat.
I feel like it's strange that they they give you this armor. It's like, hey guys, you're gonna have more health now, and then like, everyone's like, yay, and they're like, but also all the weapons are gonna do more damage. Like, what? Why? What was the point then? You just like, it's like you added more fire and then you put some sand on it, but then you added even more fire. It's like, well, that's kind of strange. I don't know. I think I like the armor, but then I think maybe unpopular opinion here or controversial opinion, but one of the favorite patches for me was actually when we did have the 3,000 overall health. You could get vultured, it's true, but if you, I don't know, as long as you save the movement ability, you could get out. I don't know. I like the fights taking longer, so you can use multiple abilities and it doesn't just end in one shot. You know, or like, oh, GG, he had a barricade, so I'll get wrecked then. You know, it's you can wait a little bit and you can use like maybe 2 abilities in one fight. Like that's crazy, 2 abilities, I know, but I don't know. The weapon scaling and the armor they just like one seems to defeat the other. So it seems like we just don't scale the weapons and we don't add the armor, and then it would be fine. But to do both it seems a bit strange.
Right, and the biggest thing that kind of puts it into consideration is the fact that the chests have obviously completely changed as well, which is, I think, where most of the harumph is being thrown about for most of the community. There's no more such thing as a weapon chest. Now it's just normal chest variant 2, graphically, as they're going to be dropping the same things. And on top of that, chests now have a small chance of dropping legendary armor, weapons, or abilities. So, I mean, we saw an instance of this before. Is this just phase 2 of the same book here?
So, I mean, I guess I'm not 100% clear on it. Will a weapon chest or a former weapon chest even guarantee a green, or is it literally just the exact same loot tables?
I think it's supposed to be the exact same loot
It's
tables.
just the same. Yeah.
Thanks.
I feel like it. I mean, from the weapon chest perspective, like it seems like it's removing a skill level, because there was like right now you're thinking about where you want to drop and you know exactly where the weapons chests are, so you have an advantage over,
or you should. Good players know.
Yeah,
that.
Good players know, like I drop here and then I can make a rotation to here, and if in case that chest gets taken, there's another weapons chest here, so I'm guaranteed to get a weapon. Whereas now it's just like complete RNG, and then to even add more insult to injury, it's like the stuff that comes out of the chest now is just completely bonkers. You know, it's you can get a gray sword and boots, and the guy next to you gets legendary shielding potion and legendary slug rifle. And like, well, I guess I'll just lose then. You know, it's like, come on,
like
man.
that meme of the old guy. I guess I'll die.
But it's so strange though. The weirdest thing to me, like I could almost forgive them for like, okay, we're gonna try this pretty ludicrous thing because you know we like to try the pretty ludicrous things in alpha. But they've already tried it once before. Like they put the weapons in the chest. They put legendary weapons in the chest, albeit at the same time they removed them from the forge, so there was no way to forge them. But I still feel like the general reaction was like, we don't like the idea that you can get your legendary class weapons out of chests. It does not seem fun. It just seems too RNG. And that's definitely how I feel anyway. I don't know about you guys, but
I don't like them coming out of regular chests. I wouldn't mind them slightly increasing the chances of purples coming out, because it feels like I don't end up with a ton of purples over the course of a game.
Yeah, purples are actually the rarest abilities in the game. Like legendary, you actually see more legendaries than you see purples.
Exactly, which is kind of weird. I wish this scaling went up more linearly over the course of the game, but it seems like you kind of just make this jump from white and green straight to legendary, and there's no ramp up. But yeah, no, I don't like them coming out of chests, but I am down with especially them buffing the airdrops, and then also the airdrops having more things in them, because then it gives maybe more cautious players another avenue to get, like, because I do like making it viable to have both strategies, because not every single person is going to want to be like this Rambo jumping into Lumberfall and just killing a bunch of dudes. Like there are going to be people that want to play a little bit safer and drop rural, and I think there should be an avenue for them, but I think just making it totally RNG with the chest is a bit weird.
See, I think the thing with the weapons chest was just that if they had a chest that was exclusively weapons, people are going to be finding the legendary weapon too often. You know, they're already finding legendary weapons in chests. I think they kind of went hand in hand together. In terms of the legendary, like the Zeppelin chest, I'm kind of in two minds, because on the one hand, I hate opening a Zeppelin chest and getting just a legendary sword and just being like, well, there's 30 shards. But on the other hand, I know people kind of complain a lot about RNG, and the Zeppelin drops are very kind of random. So then it's almost like whoever happens to be near a weapons chest at the start of the game suddenly has a huge advantage. And I feel like in some ways that's maybe more of an advantage than, finding one legendary weapon in a regular chest in some ways. So I'm like, I can see both sides of the coin here, and I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things you have to play, but the PTS is really hard to play, and, everything makes it to live anyway, so we'll play it. I guess we'll play it when it happens.
I'm interested too, and I'm going to give shout outs to a guy on Reddit named Arrow Prime who went on and he logged 650 different chests that he opened. A really, really good article if anyone's interested to look at the drop rates as far as what your chances are to get items out of these chests. Really interesting things. He has 0.8% chance to get a legendary item. But he did say he opened one gold chest once, and it did have a class legendary weapon, a legendary ability, and another legendary weapon as well on top of that. So wow. Think about that dropping in the first minute of the game, and you walking away with 2 legendary weapons and a legendary ability. Makes me scratch my head just a little bit. Here's another different change, and this one, for me, is kind of neither here nor there. It just kind of limits your ability to utilize the Forge in one fluid motion with the different maximum amount of shards that you can carry. The economy has changed considerably. It goes down from 200 to 120, and all the different costs have obviously changed as well with the Forge and the disenchanting. My biggest thing is, my first rest in peace is the ability to get 180 shards and do ability armor and armor potions. Yep. Now it's going to be one of those things where I feel like, I don't know, my initial reaction on these shard changes is it's going to promote, again, more camping alongside of the chests of just open up however many chests you can and try to use the same forge. Now, instead of 2 different times, you'll stay in the same location for maybe 3 different forges.
Yeah, and that's a lot of not a lot of fun just kind of chilling in the same spot for extended periods of time.
It's gonna be, I don't know, like I like to get in the forge, get my stuff, and then get going. But now it's like there's always it happens now where you make the weapon. And then if you've done a fight recently, you sort of make that awkward run from the forge to the pile of loot that's a little bit further away, and then you shard some of the stuff, and then you go back to the forge and you make the other 3 things. Whereas now, making that for just everything, rather than doing the weapon and then the ability and the armor, now you'll have to do the weapon separately, the ability and the armor separately, and then the potion separately. It's just I'm just going to chill. I'm just going to stay in the forge. I don't want to take that risk 3 times in a row it's just going to be running so much back and forth because they've made it such an awkward amount that you can't make, the holy trinity, the weapon, the ability, armor, and potion. And then, it's
because every time you leave that forge, you run the risk of somebody seeing the smoke and showing up to the forge while you're gone. And then they're in the forge with your stuff and you're outside of the forge, trying to push your way back in. And, let's say you can't do it in time, then they shard all your stuff, and that's the worst feeling, dude. Watching somebody delete your stuff.
The worst feeling, yeah.
I feel like I basically never wait in the forge, though, because the first place they're going to look for you is in the forge, so the best place to be is not in the forge, at least until the last, 10 seconds or so. But
it's true.
What I would say is it feels like Hi-Res are trying to push the forge as the new place for combat, because there's no longer chicken trophies, right? So you're no longer incentivized to fight, necessarily. But if you go to a forge, you're going to have to fight if people have to stay there for a long time. So by having these armor, these are shard costs, and having the kind of timings where you might have to do a few forges, you're kind of having to camp a forge a little bit. And then other people, are going to have to maybe come in and try and fight you. Admittedly, now you can get stuff in chests, but if it was the case where you couldn't get things in chests, the forges would then be the kind of hotspots for combat. And I don't actually hate that if that was the way they kind of decided to go in terms of removing chicken trophies, but encouraging people to forge and thus fight. Because you still get the advantage from forging, so then you get the advantage from fighting if you go and kill people at a forge before they get their good stuff.
But in theory, too, now that armor, like Shaw was mentioning, is really, the difference between having a purple armor and a gold armor is 30 health points. It's negligible at best. It's not even a full shot that you're going through. So if I end up looting around and not going to a forge and finding green and purple armors with, decent weapons, green and purple, maybe even a legendary weapon there, and maybe green and purple abilities, what reason do I have to go to the forge? I can get all my stuff on a chest, can't I?
Exactly. I think it's going to make the Zeppelin drops kind of more hotly contested, because
I think so,
you're
too.
Guaranteed between 2 and 4 items, and
they'll
all be legendary quality.
pretty excited about that because right now, like in the late game when the Zeppelin chest drops, I'm just like, I
Nobody
don't really
cares.
care,
Yeah.
man. Like it's just like
Yeah.
if it doesn't have
Yeah.
a burst rifle or a slug, I like really don't care. And it's the likelihood that it will have those is like what
It's
a
pretty
2
low.
in 9. So
I feel like I always get a sword or a shotgun.
yeah,
That's
it's always a
literally the only
sword or
thing I
an
ever
SMG for me.
Yeah.
SMGs all the time. So to actually see those like people actively going for those now, and you can sort of use those as like a miniature forge. Like people are going to be swarming around them. You can use them to bait people in. I'm excited for that. I don't know, the highlights for me, maybe it's better to save it till the end, but like the Zeppelin chest chains and the headshot change is just like, yes, but
Those are my two
everything
favorite,
else.
absolutely.
Yeah, same. And I'll throw this in there too when it comes to legendary Zeppelins. We'll just leave this as a hypothetical. We don't have to stir on this, but are the drops for at the moment in the current game as we're talking about it now, are these Zeppelin drops not as valuable because the really only valuable weapons in the game are the burst and the slug? Would it not make more sense to possibly balance the weapons closer together at the high end so they're actually more viable? We'll let that simmer in the heads for a little bit for maybe another time. And then the last big change here, this is the one that I will honestly say I'm most in tilted about, is the chicken timer has been reduced by 10 seconds, but on top of that, the chickens are getting a 45% movement speed boost. That should be fun,
that's
right?
That's a rough one. I already have trouble kind of, if the chicken's running around a tree or a rock or something, it's already a little bit tough to catch up with them, and they're fast little chickens. But 45% extra movement speed is that's going to be a speedy chicken, and he gets up in 20 seconds. So
Have to get
I think
Daniel
you're
Mount
probably
to chase him down now.
I know you're probably most tilted about this shift because you're a dirty, smelly assassin main. And you
That's not true at all,
you
first
get
of
your
all.
He's been
kills
playing
from like
engineer
from
in the
form.
tournament all the time, which I'm sure is killing
dude.
you inside, but
It's killing me inside.
But yeah, no, it's kind of an indirect nerf to the super long range assassin play that we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Because if you chicken somebody from really
Or
far
slug
away, you don't have as much time to close the distance, and they have so much more movement speed. They can probably juke you if as you're trying to close the distance after a sniper shot.
I kind of like it.
We're
though.
talking competitive.
I've said it from the I
Oh,
don't
man,
know. It's like from the start. I've always said to chat and everybody else that I've talked to, like one of the least changed mechanics that I've seen out of Realm Royale. Like we've changed everything. We've changed weapon damage, what the classes look like, which weapons they have available, abilities. But the chicken has pretty much always stayed the same. It went from 1,000 health to 700 HP maybe like 2 months ago. But they haven't really changed it at all. And I think that's fine because the chicken mechanic worked. It was good. You're not supposed to make it out every time. Like generally when you get turned into a chicken, you're kind of dead. Like I feel like you survive more often in squads because you can go into your teammates and they can back you up. But generally as a chicken, you're supposed to die.
Solos, you shouldn't.
But now it's like
you're
you're going to get
solos,
out
it gives you
so
a chance.
often now because that thing is fast as frick, man. It's just like you clicking, jumping through windows, like juking shots left and right. Like you may as well just, just have a little... Like, give the chicken an emote as well so it can stick the middle finger up at you while it jukes your slug rifle shots. Like, it's so obnoxious, man. I don't know. I don't like it.
Competitively, I'll let you get to yours, Jack. But competitively, I mean, when Slick and I were playing in tournaments, a lot of those fights happen at long range. And if you do end up downing somebody, that usually is like okay, let's just go and push. But you're not going to be able to do that anymore because now with one-hit dismounts and 20 seconds and the ability to gain space as the chicken, there's no way you're going to catch up. The only way people competitively, I think, are going to get full-on kills is if they're right next to the team they're fighting or if they just happen to down a chicken that's already been down 3 times.
It's gonna make these kind of like a war of attrition. It's just like chickens popping back up. It's like whoever runs out of armor pots first,
Chicken lives first,
or chicken lives. Yeah, whoever runs out first is like going to be the person who loses.
The thing I would say is, firstly, I think that maybe making long range fights a little bit more difficult is a good thing because at the moment,
for sure,
it's part of why things like Assassin and Slug are really dominating. The other thing I would say about the kind of chicken changes is bear in mind also that there was weapon scaling increases, which means it is easier to kill chickens. So, at the moment, there's a lot of times where you have to 2-shot a chicken, but with the weapon scaling, it's going to be much easier to 1-shot them. So maybe giving them a little bit more survivability makes more sense. And the last thing was the chicken mechanic is kind of a big part of the game, but it's not a part of the game that you really see that much in solos. So maybe this change is to kind of promote chickens a little bit more and survivability of chickens in solo games, because obviously in squads and in duos you can kind of defend your chicken buddies, and that's probably where these changes are going to be the most insane. It's just because your friends are going to be getting up that much quicker, and they're going to be much easier to protect.
Man, I don't know. For me, it's one of those things like I would like to have seen one or the other, not both at the same time. And to be honest, I feel like chickens would be more survivable if when you try to jump into window, you either didn't A, jump straight over it, or B, get in that weird middle ground where like you're bouncing in between the upper part of the windowsill and the lower part of the windowsill so often. Because there are so many times where I'm trying to go through a window and I can't do it. Like, if there was like an instant, like almost like like a mounting mechanic where it's like you instantly go through the window.
Chicken vaulting.
I think chickens become more, chicken vaulting. Hashtag bring chicken vaulting to Realm. Let's make a trend right now. I don't know. I think that this is just too much. It's too much of the same thing. And it's going to be hard, I think, just to get an opinion on it because is it the speed that's too much or is it the timer that's too much? Like, either way, it's going to be too much.
I think that's sort of the theme with a lot of these changes. It's like so much at the same time. I feel like the feedback that Hi-Rez will gather from this isn't going to be terribly useful for them. Just because it's like it's hard to tell exactly what is changing the meta considering so much change at the same time.
Like that, it's a double of everything when we look at it. You know, it's like extra armor, but then extra damage, and you remove the chicken trophies, but you also remove shards, and then you remove, you decrease the timer, but you also increase the speed. Like, let's just do one of each, and then
exactly
take it from
see
there,
how it
in my
shakes
opinion.
out.
But yeah,
I don't know. There's a lot of considerations to be sure. Regardless, the PTS has been difficult to get through. You can find the PTS on Steam if you go to the store page for Realm Royale and navigate down to where it says Notice. If you would like to participate in tests, you can download the public test server by clicking here. So if you're interested in getting these tests in before they go to the live servers, that's where you can find the information to do it. Last real big change coming. This is a more competitive focused thing. The Keemstar event had just this last week had seen a lot more invites to players that had done well in the 10Ks over the previous 2 weeks. And now, apparently, that was not desired by Keemstar, and he is restricting it to where teams that are playing have to hold 2,000 or more viewers between the two of them combined. I personally see a good and a bad. The good is going to be you're going to get bigger streamers involved in this because they're not going to be getting bodied by the people that are trying to play this game super professionally and competitively, and it's going to bring more eyes to the game. But on the flip side, the actual iteration of the game being played will not actually look competitive, and with the word tournament in it, everyone will immediately associate that this is a highly competitive event, and it's really not going to look that way, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I understand like where Keemstar is coming from because obviously this is like this is a business venture for him. Like he's making money. He's like trying to get a return on investment here. So it makes sense for him to be doing that. But again, like you're saying, at the same time, it's gonna drop the level of competition pretty severely. Or what we'll see happen is there will be like because some of the people that are in the tournaments currently are already very big streamers, and some of them are very, very good. I think, Kefri does really well in terms of viewership. A lot of these guys can pull this kind of numbers that Keemstars is looking for, and they're very good. So it'll basically just be them kind of stomping other big streamers that don't have as much time in the game. So, and we've already seen a lot of that in the 10Ks. Is like it's kind of the same couple of people winning over and over. Like, does this exacerbate that problem where it's just going to be a small group of people just totally dumpstering everybody else?
I feel like if it's 2K between the two players, right, then you can just like it's gonna be a case of like the streamers that want to win the money just picking a smart player, and then it's effectively gonna be like solos, and it's just like like which is the best solo play you can get in with you, like
become a pro-am.
Exactly, the pro-am like Fortnite.
Yeah, so I don't know. I like I completely understand like you want to put the viewers in because viewers equals money for ads and everything else. But yeah, it's like I guess ultimately it's a good thing because more viewers on the game, and then if they actually do care about the game and they get invested and they go and look at some other streamers and they play a little bit more, they'll realize, oh, that tournament that I watched, most players were really bad and they don't play the game very often, but they just want to win a lot of money. So I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I just feel like it's that tournament is going to be like for most of the high caliber players, it's going to be so much easier to win the 100K than it would be to beat the 10K because the skill level of players in the 10K tournaments, there's a lot of really, really good players in there. Whereas like at the 100K tournaments, you have some big streamers, but they don't play Realm very often. So they don't necessarily, they can aim and they have good game sense, but they don't know much about like the game itself. So
Which I think was made most evident in this recent 100K, where you saw people like Summit, who clearly haven't played the game in a while, still running Warrior and still trying to use his leap for damage. He was jumping indoors on people, and like that doesn't do anything anymore. But like
What I would say is, I feel like there's kind of an issue where you have a tournament where one week a team wins and the next week they're not even allowed to compete. Which is the case that Shift has. Like, I realize, you won the 100K last week, so, your opinion is going to be in some ways colored by that. But that just seems bizarre to me, that's kind of a system that they've employed here. I think the best solution, if you want to balance competitiveness with creators of big names, is that you don't have the creators make their own pairs. You have, 50 creators and 50 pro players, and they get paired up. So everyone is a name and a talent, basically.
That's pretty smart, actually.
And
so
that
again,
kind of
more,
has the best
pro
programs, in my opinion. Like pro, like in golf where they have like a pro paired with like a rookie. That's the kind of thing. But the rookies also has 30,000 Twitch viewers. Like, basically, that is what I would do if it were up to me. In order to keep the kind of competitive integrity with the game, whilst also pulling in numbers, because obviously viewership is going to get players into the game, and that's also what Hi-Rez want.
True. And I'm not at any point trying to frame it like, like Slick and I, and really anyone who finished in the top 4 who got a very healthy share of that prize pool, should automatically be invited. For me, as someone who, is a content creator, that kind of puts me in the mind like, okay, maybe I need to start reaching out to some of these big content creators that haven't tried this game yet to see if they'd be interested in doing it. It's not one of those things that's like, well, Slick and I should be able to play no matter what, blah, blah, blah. Like, there are definitely benefits on both sides. I mean, either you're promoting the competitive side of the game by allowing competitive players to play it, you're showcasing the competitive nature of the game, or you're getting in more eyes and more views, and you're just gaining exposure. And, being completely candid, I mean, I think that the goal of Hi-Rez is to get the exposure. I mean, this is an alpha game that doesn't really have the whole private game function available yet. I mean, community tournaments, there are tons of them, I'm sure, knocking on the door waiting to get in, but I'm fine with the fact of it. It just seems a little strange, and I think that the best idea would be to do exactly what you said, Jagras, is to find some way to say, all right, well, Summon and Josh, I know you guys are huge buds, but if you guys, you guys need to find a pro player to play with, maybe that would be a good idea, especially if it's like, because let's be honest, this last tournament did not have the same pull of content creators as the first one did from Keem's Rolodex. It would be interesting to see if, like, the people that participated in the 10Ks that finished in the top 20 were put on a list and sent away to content creators. Be like, here's people that are playing, that are pros. Reach out to them if you want to play with them, just to try to get more investment into that balance. Because I think that balance would be really, really healthy. And honestly, it'd be really, really fun, I think, to watch.
It also incentivizes the creators to compete, because then they have someone who's talented on their team, but then they also know that everyone is kind of in the same boat as them, which means they all stand a chance to win.
Right.
Like it kind of evens the playing field a little bit more than having a tournament where you have people who haven't played in a while versus I Hold Shift and Slick who play every day, for example.
Yeah, we need to get outside.
No, when you're making $25,000 a week, you don't.
Oh, dude.
Right? Yeah, you need to stay indoors, man.
Stop. No, none of that. I need to go outside. It's when I went to the gym for the first time yesterday in a while. I was just like, why do I do this to myself? Like, why do I not just go out and explore nature more? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not really that much of a homebody. Either way, I'm excited to see how this develops. We've only seen 2 weeks of it, and we've seen 2 very different showcases with the Keemstar thing. The 10K has been consistently showing, really good players. And I know a lot of you out there saying, well, how do I get involved in these invitational based tournaments? If you're looking to get invited to the 10Ks, I know that Hi-Rez is looking for people not only that play the game a lot and obviously have a good track record with where they stand in their rankings, but also their stat lines. But beyond that, they're looking for people that are those content creators or aspiring individuals that want to become a part of the community. So make sure you keep putting yourself out there. Utilize the resources that are around you, whether they're friends that also stream or people that you have yet a chance to meet in the community. I know that I'll speak for at least myself, and I know a number of us here on this broadcast that we're always willing to help new players kind of help branch out and find their exposure. I'm sure someone will tell me if that's not the case, but
Baggins.
Yeah, dude. I got wrecked by somebody on my stream. No, hey. So I was playing a game and I got wrecked by this guy. And it was like twitch.tv/. I'm like, all right, well, he owned me, so I'll go and watch his stream. And I was like, hey, this guy's actually really good. So I asked him, you know, are you playing in the tournaments? And he said no. I'm like, well, do you want to go be my duo buddy? And he said, yeah. So we're gonna go be in the duos in the tournament next week. So you know, if he didn't own me, and it sounds like I'm kind of encouraging stream sniping right now, but you know, just by playing the game and just by beating me, I was impressed enough to, you know. So if he wasn't playing the game actively at that moment in time, and he didn't have Twitch.tv in his name, which is like, I feel like it's a bit of a meme by now. I feel like everybody has that, but you know, it's
who was that one guy who plays in
Exposure?
His in-game name is literally just Twitch.tv.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't remember who it is, but yeah, it's somebody in the pro circuit.
Have you practiced with this guy, Baggins?
Yeah, we've been playing every day.
Was he playing assassin and you were playing engineer in that game?
Yeah.
Oh, so I've killed him, so he's not that good. Okay, that's fine.
Whoa.
Whoa. Sounds like you need to.
That's fine.
It's okay, Baggins killed me.
He's number one in the world for kills on Realm.gg right now, so he's very good.
So it's fine.
He's my little pocket carry.
We all go to Realm.gg to find out who this is. Okay.
It's
okay, we know who the toxic one of the podcast is. Thanks, Jagras, for showing her true colors. Appreciate that.
That's fine. That's totally fine. I'll kill you too.
All right, bet. Can't wait to see you. I bet you won't drop Lost Forge with just a dagger. Bet you won't do it.
Why would you drop Lost Forge?
With just a dagger. You won't 1v1 me on Lost Forge.
Okay, yeah, but
Wow.
I mean, I'll be on EU and you'll be on NA, so we'll be running around looking for each other, and everyone else will be like actually playing the game.
Dude,
exactly.
Lost Forge is like the worst place when you're playing Hunter and like everybody's up on top of those buildings and you're just crying because you're just rolling around on the ground in tears because you're a terrible class. Yeah.
Last farewell things. Baggins, what's your least favorite spot to drop in the realm?
This is gonna sound bad, but I think it's actually Lumberfall. I used to love Lumberfall, but it's just such a mess there now. Like I have no control over when another team just comes in and this is so like you just get shot from literally every single angle. It just stresses me out to no end. So I guess it's Lumber, which is I don't know, that makes me sad because I used to love that place, but yeah.
All right, so Baggins needs to man up. Jagras, what's your least favorite place to land in the realm?
Oh, Sentinel Hold. There's too many walls. It's too like square and tall, and I don't like it. Like I don't mind attacking Sentinel Hold, like dropping Alton Fields and be like, all right, let's go kill whoever's crafting at Sentinel Hold. That's fine. Never drop Sentinel Hold. It's trash. Actually, I hate it. It's the worst place in the world.
Can I change my answer to Sentinel Hold as well? Because I died
No.
to one of the rivers yesterday.
Wow.
I forgot about it. Have you guys ever fell in that river and died? Because it messes you up, man.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the moat.
I forget about the moat.
Yeah,
like, I just don't think that it's there sometimes. Like, literally, the only other places in the map that can kill you is just the ocean. But the moat, it just counts as the ocean as well. And yeah, man.
Deep moat, man. There's crocodiles in there.
Baggins. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta watch out.
I know, man. It ruined me on the stream. So
Sentinel Hold is a terrible place.
Shaw, what's your least favorite place?
Oh man, literally anywhere with verticality, I guess now, because I'm a warrior main and warrior jump is so tiny now, dude. I can't get on top of anything anymore.
Feels bad.
yeah.
You gotta innovate your game, bud.
I know. I've been
not Goblin Gulch.
Yeah, I've been dropping flat places like Jade Gardens and that sort of thing. I'm big on the waterfall lately.
Roger that.
I like that waterfall zone.
Waterfall's fun.
A lot of fun.
Really
Yeah.
cool area. For me, you won't catch me dropping anywhere Everfrost ever. I hate every part of the northeast part of the map. Can't do it.
You stick out like a sore
traumatic
thumb.
stress. You really do stick out like a sore thumb. There's nowhere to hide. It's just like you're in the middle of an icy lake, or you're in this old manor that's like 17 stories taller than I am, and I have no way of getting up there. I don't know. Regardless, that's gonna do it for our first episode of Foul Play. Thank you guys for lending us your ears. Pleasure having, of course, the rest of the crew with us. This was a little bit longer of an episode than we normally would do, but wanted to get the introductions in on everybody, let you guys get to know us. We'll be doing more of these again once a week, about a 30-minute spot. You can find it on all of the locations provided. And until next time, well, we'll keep you guys there. And I got to think of some kind of a tagline. Then we got a tagline to finish off the stream. Anything?
Keep on clicking.
Keep on clucking. I like that, dude.
We'll try it out for size. Let you guys think. Until next time, we hope that you keep on clucking. Okay. I hate it already.
Oh man.
See you for episode 2. Later. Bye bye.